Today we're going to be talking about IBS and my approach to treating this condition. So first of all, irritable bowel syndrome is basically a diagnosis that is extremely broad and often slapped on patients who have described irregular bowels, constipation, diarrhea, bloating, discomfort, you name it. If there's not another reason, such as Crohn's, colitis, ulcers, polyps, gastritis, whatever, if we can't find another reason, typically you're just given the diagnosis of, sorry, your bowels aren't behaving properly, we're not sure why, take some Metamucil, go on a low FODMAP diet, get out of my office, you're gonna struggle with this forever. And I could not disagree with the way that is handled more. So there are 6 big reasons that we can have IBS, and all of them are very simple to address and manage. We may not always manage them perfectly, but they are manageable. The first reason we can have IBS is a reaction to food. This is a food sensitivity, not a food allergy, and there's a big difference. I've talked about that a lot on my various other videos, so please go find those if that's something that you're concerned about. But basically it means that foods are going to trigger reactions and cause indigestion, digestive upset, those IBS symptoms that you've been experiencing. Once we address and understand which foods are causing those, maybe those come under food categories, and that may allow me to change your diet to avoid, for example, inflammatory foods or avoid extremely high fiber foods, whatever it may be. Once we can understand which foods are causing those problems, it's going to allow us to target and treat that underlying food sensitivity cause of your IBS. The second thing that might be the cause of your IBS is actually that it's not a large intestine issue at all. It's that it's a small intestine issue, and this is something called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. There's, again, more resources about this, so go look for those videos. But if your IBS has been misinterpreted and misdiagnosed and you actually do have SIBO, that's a completely different digestive treatment protocol that we need to do. And if I suspect you have SIBO, you may be somebody who has extreme bloating, maybe you have nausea. When you eat, sometimes even vomiting and extreme fatigue are some big red flags that it may not be run-of-the-mill IBS, that it's actually caused by something called SIBO. The third type of underlying cause for IBS is someone who is affected by their hormones. So this could be stress hormones, this could be sex hormones. Primarily in women, we see this either right before or during the initial stages of their period. But if you're that person who gets really stressed and then you get an IBS flare-up, this is the underlying cause that we actually need to treat in and of itself in order to manage your IBS. The fourth person that we're looking at here with our IBS causes is somebody who has issues with their upper GI tract, not the lower GI tract. So if you have issues producing digestive enzymes or with stomach acid production, you're not going to be able to break down those foods properly in the upper GI. And then when they get into the lower GI, they wreak havoc because there's basically the molecules of food are just too large. They're going to draw water into the bowel, they're going to cause a food party with the microbiome that's living in there, and you're going to get digestive symptoms. The next person that we're talking about is somebody who has a microbiome issue. So it's skewed. You may have bad bacteria or yeast overgrowing and living in the digestive tract. And when food particles kind of get into that area, they react in a different way than a healthy gut microbiome should be reacting, and they wreak havoc on our digestive tract. And the sixth and final person that we're looking at is someone who has an issue with motility. So this might be somebody whose migrating motor cortex isn't squeezing the way that we want it to be and moving the stool through the bowel in an appropriate way. Sometimes this manifests as constipation, where you're not feeling fully evacuated with each bowel movement, but sometimes this actually manifests as diarrhea because you have a little bit of a blockage and things are running on by, and they're making us think that we have loose stool when it's actually caused by a slow migrating motor cortex. So I know this is a lot. We're looking at 6 different major factors for IBS, but that's my job, is we do a huge assessment of what you're eating and the circumstances for your IBS, and we come to understand the underlying cause, or sometimes causes, it can be plural, and then we treat that underlying cause so that we can put your IBS into remission and your digestive symptoms can be well managed for the long term.